Hi everyone. So in this video, we are going to discuss what is routing. So if you have seen my previous videos, I have created videos on what are the difference between various versions of Angular, like Angular 6, 7, 8, and 9. The second video which I have created mostly focuses on how to create a project in Angular. My third project, or the third video which I have created, is mostly talking about what is a component and how we create a component. So if you have not seen it on my videos, I'll just give you a link somewhere at the top. You can please go ahead and visit those. If you like, please hit like, and if you want to subscribe it, please subscribe it. So in this video, we are going to talk about what is routing and why do we. So routing is nothing but when you want to move from one view to other view by changing the path at the navigation URL. That is nothing but a routing. Yes. So Angular also provides a similar kind of router. So in routing, Angular, when you create an Angular project, as I discussed earlier, so whenever I create or whenever a project is created, it's first ask you in the prompt whether you want a routing module or not. So I'll just tell you when to use or when to say yes and when to say no. So if before starting any Angular project, you will be having a knowledge that either whatever you are going to create is only having a very basic fixed functionality, or you are going to have to create multiple modules and you're having multiple pages as part of your requirement. So what I'll say is that if you're having multiple pages as part of your requirement, in that scenario, what you need to do is you need to go ahead and choose yes in the prompt for routing. But if you think there is nothing, I'm having only one simple functionality to demonstrate, then I'll go ahead and choose I don't want a routing. So when you choose yes for the routing, then a new file called approuting.module.ts will get formed for you automatically from your Angular side. So in this video, I'm just going to show you what exactly a routing is. Inside a routing or inside your any page, you can have sub-routing modules as well. So say that if you're inside your address page. So that is your main routing. When you click on address, you get to an address page. But say that if there's a scenario that if you want to have further like US, exactly the postcode. So there might be sub-routing as well at a main routing part. So I'll just explain you. I'm just giving you a brief about what we are going to discuss today. And there are guards. So guards are nothing but say that if you are not authenticated or if you are not logged in, but if you want to go ahead and see certain page. So as an owner of an application, I should not allow you to go to any page whichever you want without the proper authentication. So in those scenarios, what needs to be done is there must be something which needs or which should be protecting or which is acting as a wall between your pages and the external authentication or external thing that is going to get inside your application. So the thing which protects your application from external thing, from improper passage, or that is mostly a guard. So these three topics we are going to discuss in this video. This video is not going to be very long. It's going to be very short, and I'll try to just explain you very basics about how you can go and easily create routing. So I'll just go and open my VS Code. So if I have selected yes while creating projects, so I'm having approutingmodule.ts file. So if I open it, I'm already having few routes created. So, but when you open, you'll not have anything inside your app routing. You'll only be having a constant with routes and your ng module, which says imports and exports. So only these things will be there. So for me, the first part is that you need to create a a component. So I was already having a component called demo first component, demo second component, and demo third component. So demo first component, demo second component, and demo third component. So how I created a demo component? By just using ng generate component. So I'll just write it ng generate component name. What's the name of my component? It's demo first. So as soon as I write ng generate component demo first, my first demo folder will get created. Similarly, I'll do demo second and demo third in my command prompt, and as soon as I do enter, my three things will get created. And for your child routing, just explaining the child routes, I have created two more child components. That also I have used the same command, which is ng generate component name of your component. So name of the component for child, I have just for convention, I have given it child first or anything in order to identify that it's a child component. So I have created demo child first and demo child second. Demo first, demo second, demo third are the name of my three components. Demo first child and my demo second child are name of my child components, but they are all components. It's here while creating component, you cannot segregate that it's going to be a parent, it's going to be a child. Nothing. You just need to create 5 components, which I have created here. So now what I want to do, I just want to go to my routing page, and inside my routing, I'm having my routes already created from me from Angular. So this is an array which takes an object. So what I want that whenever my path is going to be first component. So what is going to be your path? So your application is running at localhost 4200 / as soon as I put first component, I should be redirected to my demo first component. Similarly, if I put here second component, then it should take me to my demo second component. Similarly, if I want to put third component, then it should take me to demo third component. So this part I'm going to explain you later. So you understood. So what exactly is the path? A path is nothing but that whatever is going to get appended to your localhost 4200, the local port on which your Angular is running. So this is my third component, and this is the path which will get created. So this is the third component, and whenever third component is getting clicked, I just want to take him to the third component. So this is the way I have created my routes. So as soon as you put demo first component here, you need to import it from wherever you have created your component file. So I'm getting it from demo first and the name of my component file. Similarly for second component file, for third component file. So what we did, we got all the components here, and we are having our path and we are having our component. Now in our descriptions, I've already told that we might also have some childs inside our parent. So say that whenever I went to my first component here, as soon as I went to first page, and I might get some message as hello first page. This might be my content in my first page. But if I also want that with my content, I should also have some hyperlinks like child 1, child 2. So what inside our first component, we might have some message, and we might have some more routes inside my first component. So what will I do? I'll use the children property of the routes here. So what is children property specifies? Children property specifies that this component is going to have a children. So what I did, I created an array similar as my routes array was there. What I did, I just created an array for children. And inside my children array, I just wrote my path. So whatever you want to have your routing path, you can give it. Here what I'm giving child first. Whenever the path is child first, I just want a component to be my demo child first component, which I have created. When my child route is child second, I just want to show my demo child second component. So these are my routes which I have specified here. So now once your routing part is done, so now when you run your application, you also need somewhere where you can click and go to this particular component. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to go to my app component.html and I just going to create hyperlinks. So in normal HTML, how we used to create a hyperlink, we used to put a href and whichever path you want here, you can put it, and this becomes first link. So something like this. So here what we're going to do, we are having a router link, which is provided from our router. So in router, what we need to put is the name of the path what we have provided in our routing. So here what we have provided in our path, we have provided as the first component. So as soon as I put router link as first component, as soon as our user clicks on this first component, it's just going to take you to this path and it's going to open the demo first component. Similarly, if he is going to click on second component, it's just going to map this second component to this second component. If here by mistake, if it's second one, and if you have written here second, then the mapping between these two paths is not there, so you'll not get routing happening. So these two things should match. Similarly, router link 3, third component is here, and I'm just going to have a path for my third component, and I'm just going to provide the name for my third component. So what I did, I just created 3 hyperlinks in my main page, and one more thing you are seeing in my HTML page, that is nothing but a router outlet. So router outlet is nothing but a container inside which the routing will take place. So if there is no router outlet in your page, then the routing is not going to happen. So router outlet, wherever you want to perform your routing, you need to have a router outlet always inside your HTML page. So now my application is already running and it's running on port 4200. If I go to browser, I go to 4200 port. I'm having 3 hyperlinks which I have created. My first hyperlink is first component, second component, and third component. First component, second component. As soon as I click on first component, my first component contents I can see here. In my first component, I was also having my child components. If I go to my first component HTML, then I'm also seeing something called router links. So wherever you're going to provide the router links, you always provide a router outlet there. So what I did, I'm having child component 1 and child component 2 as I have specified here. So as soon as I click on child 1, I get the demo child first. If I click on demo, see the URL is changing and the content is also changing. Correct? So this is our basic routing. So similarly, if I just want to go to my second component, I'll get the content of second component. Why I'm not getting the child here? Because I have not created any of the child for my second component. Similarly, if I go to my third component, I get the. So now what is happening in my previous module, if you go, or in my previous video, if you go, we were using the selectors in the parent HTML page. But if you are going to have many selectors, that is not the best way to move ahead. So you need to create routings. So if I click on first, if I go to second, if I want to go to third. So this is your child route. So how you specify a child route? You go to your app routing module.ts and just you need to write the children property inside your constant routes, and it will take an array, and again the same thing, the path and the component, path and the component. In this manner, you are going to create, or you will be successfully creating your child routes as well. So this is the basic concept of routing. Now, the third thing which I was thinking of discussing here is guards. So in the beginning of my video, I have already explained you what a guard is and why we need a guard. So if you're living in an apartment, so in this apartment, you can see there is a guard who just intercepts any uneven or any suspicious things that is trying to enter the apartment. So similar thing, what guard does is that it's going to just intercept, or it is not going to allow any unwanted person or any unwanted thing to enter your application without your permission. So if I'm going to discuss about guards, so guards are also of two types: CanActivate, CanDeactivate, and the third one is onload, which we are not going to discuss now. We'll be discussing it when we are going to talk about the lazy loading in our routing. So there are two types of guards available: CanActivate and CanDeactivate. So how we create a guard? We create a guard how we used to create a component. Creating component, what we used to write? ng generate component name. So similarly, what we are going to do? We are going to write ng generate guard and guard name. So if it's authentication, then just write authentication and hit enter, and a guard will get created from Angular side. So I have already created a guard here. So my first guard is my authentication guard. So it gets created if I open this. So by default, these things will be created by Angular. You can see a class which implements CanActivate. So I have not written what it needs to implement and all. It's this much logic is by default written when the class gets created. So inside that, what I have written, I have taken a variable is logged in. If is logged in is marked true, then I'll return true. Else I'll say window alert, you don't have permission to view the page. Similarly, what we can do, so what exactly it means is then whenever a user is logged in, so for that you need to check. When we are going to discuss services, I'm just going to explain you, but this logged in, you need to check by any mechanism whether a user who is entering into your application is logged in or not. If he is logged in, then this CanActivate returns, or it takes a Boolean whether I need to show or allow that user to get into the application, or I don't want to allow him. So from the name itself, it's clear it's going to activate the route for the user who is going to come inside it, or it's not going to activate the user from entering or not allowing the route. It's not going to activate the route. So now this is the CanActivate. It takes your next parameter, or what is your active route, and the state of the route. So what I've done, I just created a constant, and I'm checking if that particular user is logged in. For now, I'm considering it to be a true value. If it's not true, I'm just going to alert the user that you don't have permission to view the page. So now this is for my authentication purpose. So now your first step was to create a guard. So once your guard is created, you need to go to your app routing module.ts, and I just want to check for my second component. I only want to allow my second component, or anyone can go into my second component only if he is logged in. Else I'll just going to allow anyone to go to my first component and my third component. So what I'll do, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use CanActivate. So I'll just use CanActivate. And what I'm going to write, I'm just going to write the name of my CanActivate. So what was the name of my guard? My name of the guard was Authentication Guard. So Authentication So now path is there, component is there. I have also given it a third parameter called can be activated or not. So if I save my things, so just I want to show you one more thing. I have talked about router outlet, correct? So if I go to HTML, if I remove this router HTML, your routing will not take place. So if I go here, I refresh my application, I click on first component and nothing is happening. Second component, nothing. Third component, nothing. Why it's not happening? Because it's not getting the container where to load the routing thing. So that's why wherever you are writing your router links, please try to provide the router outlet there. Now if I click on here, when I click second works, first works. So now I'm just going to show you logged in process for my second component. So now when I go to second component, it shows me second works. Why? Because my guard is given, or a default value has been provided to you, or as true. So now if I make it false, what's going to happen? Why? Because I tried to go to second component and I don't have permission. So if I go to third component, it allows me. If I go to first component, it allows me. As soon as I go to second component, as I'm not a logged in user and I don't have authentication to go and visit to second component, that's why I'm getting you don't have permission to view the page. And it won't allow me to go to that particular router. If I make it true again, then what's going to happen? This first component, if I go to second component, it allows me because now a user is a logged in user. So similarly, now I just will create one more guard called a deactivate guard. So now what I'm just going to do ng generate guard, and I'll name my guard as authentication deactivate guard. So as soon as it gets created, so now what's the major difference between CanActivate and deactivate? CanActivate implements a CanActivate interface which is coming from your router. And if I go to my deactivate guard, it implements CanDeactivate. And here, if anyone is going to just try to deactivate it, here deactivate does not take true or false. Here you can return any kind of message which you want to return. So I just want to return Windows confirm. Are you sure you want to leave or not? Are you sure you want to leave? This is my deactivate guard. So where I need to go in order to apply my guards? If you have thought routing module.ts, you are correct. So in my third component, I will just do, it's my CanDeactivate. I'm using CanDeactivate, and what I have created, authentication deactivate guard. So now what I did, if my third component is visited, it will go to component, and here we have put one more guard called authentication deactivate guard. So let's check what it will do. If I refresh and if I remove my router links and I'll just hit it, I'll get the first page. I just went to my third component. It's allowing me to go to my third component. And if I try to go back to my second component, while I'm trying to deactivate my route, it will ask you, are you sure you want to leave or not? You would have seen this message in many of the websites. So if you want to move to other, you can say yes, and it will allow you. If I go to third component, if I click again, if I say cancel, then I'll be sitting in my third component only. So this is the use of your CanDeactivate class. So now the one more thing which we discussed was child routes. So if I go to my first component, here also I can, yes, I want to leave. So this is my first component. If you are having some restrictions for your first component also, if you don't want to activate your routing, then what you need to do is that you need to go here and write can activate, and you can create any of the guard for this as well. I have not created, I'm not going to give anything to it. But one thing, I don't want anyone to just simply go and do whatever they want with my child. What I'll do, I'll just go ahead here and create CanActivateChild. Is a user having authentication or permission to create or can activate a child only when I want it to get activated? So what I have done, I have just similarly created ng generate guard and guard name. So what I have given the guard name as, I've given the guard name as child authentication guard. When you open it, it implements an interface called CanActivateChild. So that activation always takes a Boolean value. So by default, I've given it logged in true. If it's true, it will allow the login to happen. And if it's false, then it will give you a message. So what I did, I just went to my app routing. I have given CanActivate, and here I'll use authentication, child authentication guard. So now my activate child is here. And I'll just go to my application and check my child routes. So these two were my child routes. So as soon as I click on child component 1, I get my thing. If I click on child component 2, I get my stuff. But why I'm getting it? Because in my child authentication, I have always allowed it. So if I say false, you don't have permission. I click on first child, you go to component, you don't have permission to view it. You don't have permission. But the question might be that I just don't want directly to go and do not allow my child routes. I also want that only for my child first component, I want to provide a guard. For child second, I don't want a guard. In that scenario, what you need to do, what we have been doing in the previous things, we can create CanActivate for our child first thing. And if you want for your child second, you can create a deactivate. I'm just going to show you with the similar example that I was having. And I'm done with these two as well. I will just remove the total guard of my child and will allow them to focus on the stuffs. So if I go here, I refresh it. I go to first component. Why I'm able to go to first component? Because the guard which I've used is having value as true. If I put is false, it refreshes and we don't have permission to. If I go to first child, I click on check, you don't have permission to go. If I go to second child, it allows me. Why it allows me? Because in my app routing, I'm only handling CanActivate guard here. So now if I want to go back to child 1, it's asked me, are you sure you want to leave? I'll say, okay. And why I'm getting this message? Because now when it's trying to put it to child component 1, I don't have permission to visit child 1. I'll say, okay. I'll remain in child component 2 only. If I again go in here and put it true, I can allow anyone. Then what will happen? As soon as I go back, it's asked me, I say, okay. If I put in 1, you don't have permission. Okay. So this is the major routing things what we have covered. So just summarizing everything. So what all things are there? How you create a guard. So how you create a guard using ng generate guard and guard name. So what are types of things available? CanActivate, CanDeactivate, and CanActivate children. So these 3 guards are there, which are there for your application. We also learned how to create a router link. It's similar to Ahref. Just at place of href, you put router link, and you can put the whatever link you want. So this is going to be your router link. So whenever you want to have your routing, the first and the most important thing is for you to have is your router guard. If you don't put your router guard, routing is not going to get performed. So what all things, whenever you select yes in the prompt while creating project, routing module.ts will get formed, which will have routes. You can put an object inside the array, and you can have path component. And if you want a children, you can put a children array, and you can have your path component. Now, if you want to have put some guards, you can put CanActivate, CanDeactivate, and as we did earlier, you can also have CanActivateChild. If yes, these three guards are there, and they're just going to help protect your application. So I'll just upload it into my GitHub. If you want to start with this project, you can go ahead. I'll just give my GitHub link in my descriptions. You can go ahead and take this project. This is Angular 9 project. And in this, we are just going to see the basic concepts. And once you're through with the basic concepts, we are going to create an application or any e-commerce application, whatever you want. We will go ahead. If you like the video, please hit like. If you're new to video, please subscribe. And that's all for today. Thanks everyone. We'll meet in the next video. Bye.